talking about 1988's Lucasfilm classic, Willow, starring Warwick Davis, Val Kilmer, others. I guess. Hey, look, this movie came out in 1988, but full spoilers if you care.
We said it up top, but if you're only watching,
I think that's a fair claim because there's going to be a lot of people watching this movie because of that show coming out soon.
Yeah, there's a show coming out the end of the month.
And I think there's going to be a fair amount of people who get a little bewildered.
Who has never seen this movie before? Me. So just the top two.
Okay.
I see every movie.
I saw it long ago. It was practically like watching it new.
No, same. Yeah. I watched it when I was like 10. So
I remembered far less of this movie than I thought I did. I'd appropriated some parts of a different movie into this movie and created sequences that apparently didn't happen.
I definitely think I have been mixing up Willow, Dark Crystal, and Labyrinth my entire life. Now that I've seen them all relatively recently, I'm like, okay, you're all different.
I've definitely been putting pieces of Merlin into this movie.
Oh, Sam Neill Merlin?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. She's got the voice like this.
You're watching this movie. Where the hell is Sam Neill?
No, it wasn't anything that egregious, but like small things, small sequences where I'm like, I think that might have been Merlin now.
So we're talking about this because the new show is coming. Lucasfilm now only exclusively does TV shows for the time being. But they did this movie, and I think it's the only movie that Lucasfilm produced that I hadn't seen. So how do we want to start with this?
The way we usually do, which is what did you think of it, Brandon?
Well, I wasn't sure because we do that for new movies, not old ones. But I really liked this. I thought this was a blast. I love the visual effects in it. Especially have a more appreciation for the visual effects having seen ILM, the Light and Magic documentary. I really like this. And after this, I watched the TV show and I got really hyped for that TV show.
Oh, the trailer?
Oh, the trailer.
Yeah, we did too.
Yeah.
We did too. You're like, oh, they're there.
That trailer looks real good.
That trailer, in now with context, looks hella good.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. I'm going to call it really good, not great. I think it's probably like 30 minutes too long. It definitely has some pacing problems for me. But yeah, the special effects and the characters really carry this movie for me. I think Warwick Davis is super charming. Val Kilmer is the most charming he's maybe ever been. He's so fun in this movie. I think the brownies don't need to be there half the time. They're pretty annoying. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're not for me.
They overstay their welcome.
I think they overstay their welcome. They didn't need to be in the entire movie. Otherwise, I had a really good time. With these older movies, like, do they hold up? I think this one mostly does.
Yeah, I'd fall in a lot of. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
I might be the one outlier where I don't think it's a bad movie, but I'm not totally in love with it. Mm-hmm. But also, after seeing the trailer, I'm more excited for it now because I'm looking forward to the TV show, and I'm glad I did see this movie. After I was done watching it, I was talking with Fanny, and I said this is probably one of those movies that if you grew up watching it, kind of like Never Ending Story, you would absolutely love it. Whereas I would definitely say it's good, but maybe some of the magic is lost on me now that I'm older, and I've been not to say because there were times where we were watching, it's like, wow, you could definitely tell that these were older special effects, but it's like, but wait, this is 1988. At the time, these were groundbreaking special effects, so I can't be too harsh on it. I can't be too harsh on it.
I'm not kidding you because I know you haven't seen the documentary. That morph effect with the witch was a groundbreaking special effect at the time that had never been attempted before. And they completely created new technology and a new way to make that look. And it like changed cinema forever. Like quite frankly.
ILM is very good about changing cinema.
I mean, you could definitely, but once again, you could definitely tell that this is older, but still like seeing the size comparison, it's like, that's still really, I still think it's really cool seeing how like the brownies with Willow. I'm like, that's actually still really good effect for this is once again, 1988. This has never been done before. So I still like the movie. I do agree it's way too long. It was like, oh my God, but I do like seeing Val Kilmer in it. I thought I enjoyed Val Kilmer a lot, especially how his teeth got better throughout as the film kept going.
Wiping the dirt off.
Yeah, like his teeth are just disgusting when you first meet him, and then it just keeps going on and on. There were some campy bits of it, but other than that, I liked it.
Yeah, I lean in the Ryan direction. I think it's a little long. I liked it though. I think that, you know, perhaps Ben is correct. There's another one of these blind spots of his for the late '80s, early '90s, where he just missed the boat and therefore can't get on board. Is possible, but I think it mostly holds up pretty well as just a story. There's some bits where I think Willow's arc is slightly unpolished, and I think that did a greater disservice to the film upon watching it as an adult than I ever cared about or noticed as a child. Because I felt like in no small way, I kind of felt like Willow's movie got taken away from him partway into the film, and it bothered me more upon watching it as an adult. And that's one of my bigger problems outside of the length. But otherwise, I still really like it. I like a lot of special effects. I agree with Ryan that the brownies just needed to go at a certain point. But we'll get into it.
I do want to positive. I do want to push back a little bit on and now Ben, if you over exaggerated, that's fine. But you said it was way too long. I don't think it is way too long, personally. I know you guys have mentioned the length. I do think it might be 15 minutes too long, maybe 30. I don't know if I'm willing to say that, but I do think the pacing in the beginning is a lot slower than the pacing in the second half of the film. The second hour really trucks a lot, like really starts moving.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in fairness, like that's where I started to really get into the movie, because there is a good hour probably that kind of moves at a pretty slow pace, and some more movies than not at the time had a pacing like that, but then as the movie goes on, the pacing went faster, and I was far more interested in the second half than the first half. I'll admit that.
Mm-hmm. No, I actually completely agree with you. Like the first half of the movie, that's where I really felt the trudging. I would say because it's like a 2 hour, and it's not a 2.5 hour. It's like
two and change.
Two and change. I would say this would be a lot better as like maybe 135, 140. Like if you could like trim the fat of the first half, because I want to say once they found Raziel, and they go to the mountaintop camp, that's when I really started paying attention. Well, I was paying attention, but that's when I was really starting to get more invested with it. Like
it takes too long to get to where we need to be, I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, like one thing is like we see through a whole bunch is how good Mad Mardigan is with a sword. And then you finally see how good he is because when he finally gets a sword in his hand at the very top in the mountain, in the snow camp, then I'm like, oh, okay, he's not just talking shit. He actually is really good with the blade.
Flipping swords left and right.
Yeah, I was like, where's this amazing swordsman we've been promised like for the past 45 minutes? I don't see it. I just see like a bumbling idiot who's trying to get out of being
I think
helping a wife do with infidelity and blah blah blah.
I think that's the art. That's like the thing though. It's like he jokes that he's the greatest swordsman in the world. Then you see him like, oh, you actually are. So I think I don't have a problem with that.
Ben's starting to change topics, so I want to go back to what he was initially talking about, which is like trimming the length. And I'll say like what I think it fundamentally is that it just takes a little too long to get to Val Kilmer. I don't think any of the movie is too slow after we get to Val Kilmer. I think it's all fine. What I do think is that only Willow and Migosh should have left the village, not the whole party that we're going to end up ultimately just parting with anyway. That ultimately became kind of silly and pointless, and we didn't need to do it.
Yeah.
Is it bad?
It feels like it's there to pad the idea of how far they traveled more than it is anything else, and I just didn't need it.
Yeah.
Is it wrong for me that I was wondering, like, because you guys know I've never seen this movie before, but when we got Burgle cut, like when he's part of the party, is it wrong for me that I was hoping that something was going to happen, then he was going to die during the journey? Because
he's a bad guy.
He's a shitty guy.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, because I thought all of them. It's weird because I thought that all of them were going to go on like this Lord of the Rings-esque journey where some of them aren't going to make it back, and I was like, I would love it if the guy either turns traitor and gets his comeuppance later, or he dies in this stupid way.
I agree. If they would have stuck with all of them and they slowly lose their party as they go, I think it would have been better. But like we meet a bunch of people and then we just leave them behind for no real good reason.
And then when they bounce, I'm like, oh, that's kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah.
This is a good spot to say what I was going to say was that like I spent the whole movie thinking the village was destroyed. because there's these people that show up. Oh, the baby's with this village. Go check it out. And so like that's it's like, oh, they know about the village. So I kept waiting the whole movie for the shoe to drop of them coming to the village and it being destroyed. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not seeing the wife in the sequel series. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought
interesting because like that didn't cross my mind at all, and it might have been just because I knew they went back to the village at the end.
Well, but yeah, but like I had no idea. So like,
no, I get it. I don't know if as a kid I ever had that read. That's too long ago. So that never entered my brain.
when Migos and Willow were going back to the village, I was thinking to myself, like, this is where they're going to find their entire home in ruins. Everyone's dead. And then it's like, oh shit, we got to go back and get her. Because that's like, there's going to be like a heartbreaking lament. There's going to be like, no, I need to save her. That was the one thing my wife's told me to do and I messed it up. And then they're going to go try and find Med Morgan and yada yada. But then it's like, nah, brownies show up. And then it's just like, nope, you got to go. I was like, I don't know why I was looking forward for the village to be destroyed. I'm kind of glad it wasn't at the end. Good.
I want to be clear. I wasn't looking forward to it. I just kind of expected it to happen. Just for whatever reason. I just kept thinking to myself, like, oh, when am I going to find out the village was destroyed?
Yeah.
But like by the end of the movie, like I realized we're coming to the end. I'm not thinking like, oh, they're gonna get there and the village is gonna be destroyed. What a horrible ending for this happy fantasy movie. I just kind of spent a lot of the movie thinking like, so that's what happened, right?
Yeah.
If I'm changing topics unless you guys want to say.
No, I'm good.
Okay. If I'm being very critical of the film, not great at its female arc for Swarsha.
Oh no. Yeah.
Largely because we get a man saying that she's going to turn on you someday. She would never. And then yada, yada, yada. She's constantly evil. He has his love potion moment with her. And that, I guess, makes her look at him differently. And then she decides, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go with that feeling. I'm going to go with getting laid. I guess. There's just so little given to her or present. And it kind of threw me because in my brain, I anticipated like, I was certain that there had been some like kind of picture like Han and Leia in Empire Strikes Back on the Falcon scene between Swarsha and Morgan. And the fact that there wasn't really kind of threw me for a loop, that there wasn't some like more bonding scene, not only just between her and him, but also her and Willow.
Her turn is like very immediate. And it's kind of just like almost out of nowhere. Because they don't like show that she has good in her really at all.
She's not a damsel in distress character, but she's just as shallow.
Yeah. And I knew the arc. Like even without remembering the movie, I saw the arc. Like she was gonna join their side, but I was hoping that like she would feel conflicted or she didn't like. She was just as bad as everyone else until she decided just not to be. And I'm like, okay, I guess.
Val Kilmer's magic kiss.
I mean, Val Kilmer's a.
It doesn't even seem like it's that. What it really is, because like he doesn't kiss her first. She pulls him in for the kiss. What it really seems like happens is that they're in the fight in the castle, and then Mint Morgan kicks another guy in the face, and she's like, "Wow, he kicked like I kicked."
Yeah.
And then she decides, "I'm gonna pick him up and kiss him."
I like the way he fights.
Yeah. I was kind of like, yeah, you get the love potion or the love dust thing, and then like when they're on the horses and when she breaks free, I was kind of hoping for. I don't know if this is me trying to correct the film and make it a little bit better. But obviously she's like, yeah, you're saying all this stuff and you're saying this isn't true. And she breaks away and then they actually fight. And then she realizes, oh, I've met my match. This guy's actually a really good sword fighter. And then you still slowly but surely start seeing that she gains respect for him. And then there could be more talks with Willow's like, no, we need to save this baby because your mom is doing some really bad shit. And you know she's doing bad shit. Why are you doing this? And then, because her turn is just kind of like I'm good now. Yay. Yeah. Or hello. Zuko here. Not like that, but
it's very, I will say, like on the note of Swarsha, like it is the one part I do like is that she is the one who has agency. She initiates the first kiss. Mm-hmm. It was something I appreciated, that she's the one that picks him up and pulls him in, rather than it being something he does. I'm like, oh, it's her one clean moment of like female agency.
Yeah.
Well, he does kiss her in the tent. Like he cuts the tent down, then you see her. It's like a very quick thing. Like he goes in for a kiss, but it's like the drape falls down. But you're right, she does pick him up later in the movie.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Like, she has this moment where really any other film, especially any kind of modern film, would have used the idea of her being captured to kind of give her some bonding moments with her captors, the heroes of the movie. But she doesn't
John
get
Carter.
it. Like John Carter. She doesn't get any of those. She just kind of escapes, and and then we see her again at the castle, and then by the end of the fight, she's a good guy.
Yeah.
Like, it just kind of happens. Like, I don't disagree with that.
I also think it's very interesting, not necessarily bad, just interesting that the prophecy around this baby is all about how she will be the undoing of the evil Bavmorda, and like not really, that we'll never see that actual part of that prophecy come to fruition. It's not something. It's like about her, but it's not. It's not her. It's, how did you describe it? That it was not clear. Like, you looked it up. What exactly happened?
Yeah, I wasn't sure when Bavmorda like dies. I wasn't sure what happened to her.
Oh, sure.
I would.
So Ben, what, like, did you know that she completed the spell and she actually banished herself from the realm? Do you know that?
That's why I figured, because when she was telling us she was going to banish the baby to another realm, but instead she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the spell backfires on her.
I thought like the spell wasn't complete, and then a bunch of things spill on the ground. I'm like, oh, she just spilled blood, but then it transported her away. I'm like, it was very unclear to me that the spell was complete.
Yeah, it was unclear to me too. Like, when all this stuff falling, because your ritual's now ruined, and she was gonna get struck by lightning and die. But then when I guess it didn't, so
she just vanished.
So, I mean, I thought I don't know what I thought. I thought some deity that she was praying to killed her, but that's really interesting. I had no idea that she vanished.
I had the Wikipedia.
I want to bring up Grayson's comment real quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Grayson says, also, if I remember correctly, older movies tend to sit on scenes a bit longer than the newer ones now. I'm usually nervous to go back and watch older movies I love. You're right. Yeah.
That's true.
This film sits on a few scenes, especially in the beginning. So this film has a few setup and payoffs. Probably the most notable being the sleight of hand with the baby at the end there. But because this film takes so long to get there, you kind of forget that that's the thing that Willow can do. And
okay, real quick, just because you brought up like setups and payoffs, nothing makes me angrier than the fact that like he never turns anyone to stone.
Oh yeah, he doesn't.
He tries with
Bavmorda, but the fact that he never used it before that bothers me.
Because he drops one. He drops one on the bridge, and then it's like, oh, that's what that does. And then yeah, you're right. That's weird.
Like, I was definitely waiting for, like, he was gonna throw it at one of the bad guys, the giant monster that he's fighting, like any of these people. But yeah, they had to save the special effects for the end, I guess.
No, I love that giant monster. I think that looks awesome.
Oh my god! Like, for no reason, it turns into a really gross rated R movie for 5 seconds. Where the troll like molts and turns into like a brain. I'm like, what is going on?
They were very happy about the Rancor from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, they went hard.
To take that another step further.
They went so hard for like one scene. Like, we're gonna go so hard on this monster.
Oh yeah, it does look like the Rancor.
Yeah. Before we get too far away from what Grayson said, like, Grayson's totally right. Like, they'll sit on scenes, and they do in this movie to an extent. That's not the problem of what we're talking about, why it's slow. So you can definitely watch like this, or you can watch a lot of your older movies. It's more a pacing issue than anything. Or like, just, was this scene necessary, rather than, oh, it's sitting in the moment too long.
Yeah.
Editing styles have gotten a lot tighter over the years, for sure. There's a lot more trimming. Yeah, going back to the monster real quickly, like so like when that troll just like morphs into this gross ass thing and then turns into this giant 2-headed beast, I was just admiring that thing, because I was like, damn, that's awesome. Yeah. Like, and there's the 4K transfer on Disney Plus, and that creature looks incredible in 4K. Like, they've really made that look good.
It is, again, I might be negative on the brownies because I think they're in the movie too much, but it is so impressive that they're in the movie as much as they are, and they're tiny, and they're just rotoscoped into almost every scene. You have giant monsters, regular sized people, Willow, brownies, like so many different things happening at once, and I'm like, man, this is really impressive. Like it's in terms of like what you're accomplishing, it's really impressive.
It is.
I love stop motion. I think it looks great.
I think what's interesting about this, having Warwick Davis go from basically, well, he was Wicket in Return of the Jedi. That was his first ever acting role, and then he gets this. It's really cool that he had a starring role like this in Willow. And I think Sparks is right that there are a couple of times where it almost kind of feels like his movie is taken away from him. And I wonder if that was perhaps like studio notes, like we weren't sure we want someone. What's the politically correct term to say about?
I think it's little people.
Little people?
I think so. That's what I've seen a lot.
Well, like I wonder if that was maybe the studio saying like, "Hey, audiences aren't going to accept this as Warwick Davis as a lead, so we have Val Kilmer. Let's kind of make him more of a leading role."
And Val Kilmer, like right at this time, is the hottest he ever has been.
Yeah.
Like from 84 to 1994, he's in like multiple movies every single year. Like he did Top Gun before this movie. So like I think Val Kilmer, like I think you're right. I don't think they didn't want to gamble on a only a little people movie.
And Val Kilmer's great. Val Kilmer's great.
I love him.
I also think Warwick Davis is really great in this too.
Yeah.
Even if that's like the way that they're looking at it, the thing is that like there was a way to incorporate Val Kilmer taking a lot of the action in the film, but not making it feel like Willow lacked the ability to affect the plot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that happens multiple times. Not only that, but like that we actively make him feel incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
Like to the point, sorry, I don't necessarily mean incompetent, but like incapable of the things he's supposed to be able to do to protect her. Like the fact that he has to use the morph spell like 3 times, and every time he happens to get distracted, and like that's the thing that's throwing him off, I guess, but like also kind of implying that he's not good at it. And I'm like, what are we doing with Willow? Is Willow a talented sorcerer to be or not? And it's just like that is not given over very clearly.
They're trying to tell both stories.
Yeah,
like he's a great wizard, but also he's not a great wizard.
Right.
Yeah.
But like it's not even like, oh, the potential is within him, he just hasn't mastered it yet. It just feels like he kind of has been given things he can do because people have told him, but not necessarily like any, like the only implication we get of him having inherent gift is when he talks about having the instinct about saying his own finger earlier.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, like everything is like the wand that's given to him, the spell that's told to him, the stone, the nuts that are given to him. Like he's not given the opportunity to show what he's capable of. And if he is meant to become this sorcerer, it's weird that we go back to the sleight of hand trick for the finale.
Yeah, because
then it doesn't involve him pulling real magic at all.
Yeah, maybe
or even if he had used real magic prior to that point and then fell back on like something so simple to best her would be like make sense. But again, like we lack all these beats of allowing Willow to stand apart for what Willow himself is capable of as a character, and it's kind of jarring for a film named after him.
It is true.
Mm-hmm. When I was watching the trailers the first time for the new series, and they talk about Willow as this great sorcerer, and he's got the staff, and he looks like a great sorcerer. I was watching that and going to this and being like, oh, I don't know why I expected him to be a bit better at magic in this movie. Because you're right. There's a bit in the end before he runs in to save the baby, but there's this bit where he's like, oh, I can't fight Bab Morda, so you go do it. And so like, I understand, Willow, you're not ready. Like, well, or like you would fail anyway or something. She says something really condescending that I don't think was meant to be. That I can't quite remember.
She's definitely like when she reaches human form, she's like, all right, give me the wand. I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna go handle it now.
Yeah, and so like to the point that I thought she was going to have a betrayal turn, that like, oh, I'm actually the evil witch. Because like I just got like a bad vibe off of her, and apparently unintentionally, because she's supposed to be the good witch.
Yeah.
But when she goes in, and it's like I kind of felt like, oh, isn't this supposed to be Willow's triumphant stand? He does get it towards the end of the movie, but I was surprised at the kind of condescension that came from the good witch at the end there.
It's just really strange to me. Like even if we're making like this is a Lucasfilm property, so it feels easy to do it. But like if you're making a direct comp to like the Bab Morda and Razel being Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, if Willow's our Luke, he's so robbed of like the ability to make active engagement with the story. He's not given the chance to make decisions that affect the outcome of things very often, not as often as someone like Luke is.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like it's not even like we have a thing where like Willow is just instinctually good at picking out people, and that he saw something in Mint Morgan that other people didn't see, and that's a decision that he made that affected the outcome of the story. It's not even that. He's riddled by indecisiveness and inaction, and to a point where I don't know what the arc is supposed to be for him in that regard.
I do like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ben. Yeah.
No, like even then, like when Razel gives Will the spell book at the end of the movie, I mean, yes, I like when he comes home, he's reunited with Kaya, his wife, and his kids. I was really hoping for the master to come up to him and was like, now you're my apprentice. Let's get you to studying magic. Yeah. And even when Will does like the magic trick and with the bird, and the bird poops on Burglegut, which I thought was hilarious, I was like, okay, let's get him to study. Like, the only way, because looking at the trailers now, it's like he does become this grand wizard, because your guys are right. Throughout the movie, he is fumbling at it. He doesn't get his true moment to shine of, I do have this potential in me. And I'm like, where is that moment where it's like, he can be the most powerful sorcerer in this land? I don't see that in this movie.
I think I would have preferred if he ended up not being a great sorcerer, and it was his sleight of hand that did save the day, and that he doesn't need to be a great sorcerer to be an important person. Because like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And like, I'd rather him have a great arc of like, oh, I thought I was this thing, but I'm not. I'm just going to be who I am. And it's just it's a hand magician.
And that's the thing though. Like it again, like this all speaks to some of the points we've been bringing up before. That like, you know, it's not like having a conversation with Willow is part of what changed Sorsha. You know, like these things that are supposed to be like, if Willow is supposed to be unique in his own person, regardless of like magic potential or not, then we didn't get enough of that either.
Yeah.
And so like it doesn't play to that advantage. It's very bizarre from a script perspective to have this story centered around this character who we are constantly putting in a place of like practically of Shinji level indecisiveness. And it's very jarring to watch that and not feel like he's given the moments he's supposed to before the story is over.
Yeah.
As a protagonist.
Ben brought up the end where he puts in where he's given the
spell book.
The spell book. And I don't want that moment to pass without pointing out that I thought it was incredibly weird that behind Matt Morgan, Val Kilmer, there was just Gandalf. And I was watching that, and there's this old man with this long beard just behind him, and I'm like, who are you? And where the hell did you come from?
He heard there was a party. He's like, I want to be part of the party.
And like that's when like the village, the good castle is like freed, and I'm just like, man, what happened? Who are you?
Very Return of the Jedi type ending, yeah.
Bavmorda's a mummy.
Yeah, she's wearing mummy clothing for some reason. That was really funny. Yeah, I like if you look at something like you bring up Luke, like you bring up Star Wars, and I'm like, Luke's doing stuff in that movie.
Right.
Like he blows up the Death Star. Like he uses the Force. Like what if Star Wars happened like he didn't get the Force? I'm like, well, that's a weird decision.
But like even then, like going back to what I was trying to hint at with that comp, like even if you're taking like a real Willow based look at that, Luke's decision to go get Leia is one of the reasons why everything's able to pull off the way that they do and escape with her. That's his instincts. That's him. Like you aren't necessarily attaching the Force to that. That's just Luke wanting to do the right thing, kind of thing. And who Luke is as a person, and that the fact that Luke is able to endear Han to it is also part of Luke as a person. And Willow's just not given those scenes. He's not given those kind of windows. He's so constantly like It's unfortunate that his character is so riddled in distrust of Mint Morgan that like I can't even attest to like part of the reason why Mint Morgan changes as a person is because of Willow's faith in him. It's more because Mint Morgan just finds himself endeared to the baby, and then also Willow by connotation than anything else. And that also feels like it doesn't serve the purpose of fleshing out Willow.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It feels like, man, it does feel like they had a Willow script and they're like, we need Willow being less of the main character. And I'm like, it's called Willow. It's called Willow.
I talked about how much I like Val Kilmer. I really like the design of the trolls. The kind of the walking on the wall effect that they had is very unnerving.
Oh, that was, the first time it happens is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really cool. I really like that effect, how it looks. It looks, because of the way the CGI is, it looks unnatural, in a way that you just can't replicate. Like it's unnatural because it's a visual effects from 1988, but it works exceptionally well because of it.
Well, it's because you're rotoscoping dudes just like running on a wall, and then you're putting it on something else, and it's like it looks unnatural, but it works.
It's so good, and I love it. I rewound it, much to the annoyance of my partner, because I wanted to see that first time again, because it's so unnerving. Like, it makes your skin crawl. I really liked it.
Thinking about just like the larger world, it feels very much like a place where there's a lot of distrust, and it just kind of feels like a bad place everywhere that isn't the village. Like even when we meet good characters, like they're still like, yeah, but the world kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And you could attribute that to Bavmorda, I guess, but like it feels excuse me, it feels like another missed opportunity to not give Willow that credit of bringing something that's like been tucked away from the rest of the world to spread. And that excuse me, that we don't get a more fleshed out feel for how these characters feel about where they live and how they're connecting to other people and all that. It also feels like kind of a weird absence inside of this film.
It's a fantasy world where they don't really care about what's happening in the world. It's more about the characters than like the overall like Lord of the Rings. Like, this is the plot happening with the different like factions and armies. It's just like, no, it's about Willow and his journey and the people who interfere with that. I wish there was more world building, but I have a feeling that the TV show is going to do so much more of that.
Well, there is the kind of feeling like this is very much taking cues from Lord of the Rings, because it's about two little people going off on an adventure in the beginning, but it quickly doesn't become that. There, you can definitely make the illusion of, like, you know, Hobbiton, very similar to the village that we see in this film. That's clearly deliberate. And I think that maybe, like, I don't know if I needed them to have more world building, because I do kind of like how they kind of live in it. But you're right, it does feel weird how, like, it's just, the world is just horrible. There are no good pockets in it except for the one village.
Well, and also that, like, we meet this good army of, I don't know where,
Eric,
who's amongst the good army, leading it, kind of, and none of them seem to care about the baby. None of them seem to care about this prophecy that should, in theory, be important to the people who would be of the good kingdom going against Bavmorda. So it's such a weird way to handle, like, prophecy. And prophecy in terms of fantasy of defeating an evil, the fact that our good forces don't even seem to be aware or really completely care about it is so bizarre.
Which they should know. Which they should know, because Bavmorda is taking all the pregnant women and taking their children and killing them. So, like, it's not like people don't know what's happening.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's and, like, it's not even clear where that army came from, because it's not the kingdom that the baby needs to get to.
Yeah,
it's a different kingdom,
right? So, like,
what's going on?
I don't expect Game of Thrones, but, like, I just needed a little more, because, like, Eric talks about how, like, there's this place and it got destroyed and that's where we came from. Like, you're just saying words and I don't know what any of it means. Yeah, like, just give me a little bit more about, like, whose side is everyone on.
They're just saying, like, magical. I think they're just saying, like, random names, or they just, like, put something into a name generator and they just pluck that out. It's like,
well, no, I do want to defend that a little bit, because there are films that do a very similar thing very well. Like, they're like, you want to throw out a silly name and say that I'm from Borkeltork and I'm going to fight the hell yeah, into it, love it, great. Yeah. I don't need more. But there is a sense that this film, it's doing it. There's kind of an art to it. It's kind of weird to say. There's kind of an art to doing something like that.
It's being subtle about it, but there's not enough.
And that artwork, that art doesn't really come off with 1980s Ron Howard and George Lucas. Like there is a way that they could have done the exact same dialogue better, or being better written probably, but there it doesn't do it as well as films that do it better, is what I'm basically saying, because it's the same thing, but there are films that have done it much better.
Just look at Star Wars. Just look at another Lucasfilm originals movie. We're introduced to the bad guys, we're introduced to the good guys, we know our stakes immediately. They don't need to go into any more than that. You just see how these are the bad people. He's like they just it's a messy film. This is a very messy movie.
Again, like Star Wars as a comparison, like everybody knows the importance of the rebellion. Like all our characters clearly know the importance of the rebellion and the importance of the Empire in the film. That's very clear. It's not clear how these characters associate with what is good against Bav Morda in the world, or the fact that that there's a prophesized baby and they don't acknowledge or care about it is so bizarre. Just a weird take. It's just a weird take for prophecy.
There are monsters hunting this baby at all times, but no one else seems to know that there's a prophecy around.
Anyway, I feel like I've been a little bit negative, so I want to spotlight that. I think all the performances are really good. I think all the performances are very, very good. I really like them, especially for their time. I think that they're doing a great job. I think it's a very endearing, like, family fantasy film, and I appreciate that a lot.
Can we talk about the elf lady in the woods who's like, "Wow, hello, it's me. You're gonna go do this thing I'm superimposed on the screen," and she's like going crazy. I feel
like they were trying very hard to capture
Galadriel
from the books. Yes, like the same presence of her before Peter Jackson would create that kind of visual language for how to do that. And so their way of doing that was make her slowly zooming in bigger. And it didn't totally work.
I thought it was hilarious. I don't think it's good, but I thought it was funny.
It was funny.
I really like the costume design.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the humor in this film is also really good. I was laughing a lot.
Yes, I agree. I think the humor can be very good.
There are some truly, really funny moments, especially with Val Kilmer. There's the bit when they the two-headed monster that I love comes out of the ocean, and Val Kilmer with the evil army runs out with him, and they're all just kind of like, "Oh, we all saw that, right?" And he's just
slowly looking at each other, realization,
"Oh shit, I'm in the wrong side."
That all works very well. I think that's one of the better jokes of the whole film.
The chariot chase I really like. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. I did too, especially I think that's where the rotoscoping becomes some of the most impressive, I think, for the brownies is in that chariot chase scene.
Oh yeah.
I also really like the humor with Mint Morgan, who might be our Bi King, maybe.
Him and Eric.
His cross-dressing moment and him clearly being in love with Eric at the same time that he's in love with Swarsha.
Oh, he definitely. There's a scene between him and Eric, and I'm like, y'all gonna kiss?
Eric just can't quit him.
Yeah.
I really liked Eric. I was happy to see him come back in the end. I was like, yeah, Eric.
Me too. When Eric was downed, I really wanted him to reach up to Mint Morgan for a kiss. I really wanted it. But obviously it was 1988. That was never going to happen.
Yeah. The army turning into pigs
is
horrifying.
Oh my god,
super good effects.
I love that. It's simple editing. It's simple cuts cutting between different stages of. There's one dude that's just half pig, and you can see the top of him moving. I'm like, oh man, this is grotesque.
That's a dude who's half buried underground, and then there's a pig legs. That was awesome.
It's great.
The makeup. When you see Val Kilmer with the snout and the tusks, says there's some really good makeup prosthetics going on.
I have a slight I take slight issue with that scene though. The brownies are normal sized baby pigs, and I think they should have been really tiny pigs.
Oh, that's a good point. Should have been little baby pigs.
The moment when we see Val Kilmer turn in full pig face, I was like, and that, children, is how orcs were born.
They were elves once. Although I will say, when Eric came in, when he was riding in to help the fight in the castle, I was like, the ride of the Rohirrim.
I got it.
The sorcerer turning everyone back, and then the ambush of the horses, and was really cool. Seeing the horses come out of those ditches.
I wonder how long those horses were laying down like that.
Right.
Those are some nimble
Because
horses.
some of them just run out of holes in the ground, and some of them are laying down.
Yeah.
So like it's not consistent.
It's like a Trojan horse. Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
I did-
I also really like the sword fight between the evil guy with the skull face and Matt
Kale?
Morgan. Kale, yeah.
Yeah, he's a totally fine like evil bad guy, but like his sword fight at the end is good because like you think he's dead and he comes back and he falls on his own sword.
Some cool swords.
Matt Morgan has like a sword attached to his armor.
Yeah,
That's
that's
really
like a rapier, but it's a handheld. Like that's very cool.
Oh, and like Sorsha and the other dudes have like serrated blades.
Yeah.
That's Ben. That's straight up just a Bloodborne katana. She has a sword
totally.
like the swordfish one. Yeah, it's great.
Oh no, there's like a, it's not a sword, but it's a dagger that this one guy had where it had edges in it. It was serrated, where it wasn't meant to like stab and cut flesh, but it was supposed to catch other weapons. And he twists the handle, and the sword would snap.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the type of weapon you don't want to fight against because it's like you get your sword caught in that snap, but the serrated edges of some of the weapons, especially Sorsha's blade, I thought there's some really cool looking swords here. I really like I said earlier, the costume design. I really love the armor that Mad Morgan gets or Mad Morgan wears, like right behind Ryan. I really enjoy that armor.
Oh yeah, the Gondorian armor.
Even the Kale's armor. It looks like someone out of Bloodborne or Dark Souls, where it's like this is an evil knight you fight out of Dark Souls, and I'm here for it. I like it.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to shout out James Horner's score, which I think is really great. I really like the theme song to Willow. It plays a few times during the movie. I could have done with a few more because I liked it so much, but it plays in a really great way in the trailer. And I always liked it. I always liked it in the trailer for the sequel series. And so I was like, oh, that's really cool. I like how they do it. But having the context of seeing it within its source movie and then going to the trailer and seeing I was like, oh, that's good.
So James
really
Horner.
like yes, I also, besides Willow's theme, I also really enjoy the use of the bad guy music, which is also in
The Mask of Zorro,
and also in
Enemy of the Gates.
Yeah.
He's used the same theme multiple times, but the thing is, it's such a banger. I'll hear it in every movie.
Yeah, I love James Horner. He's one of the composers I dearly miss because he passed away a couple years ago. I really liked his Avatar score, and I don't know who they got to score the next movie, but good luck. He has some great Star Trek scores. That theme that you talked about, the one from Mask of Zorro, this and
Enemy at the Gates.
Enemy at the Gates is also in Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan.
He just can't help himself.
He just can't help it.
And I really like it. I like him in general. There's another Wrath of Khan cue that I noticed in this that I thought was kind of cool. Yeah, I really like the music. I loved Willow's theme song.
So the guy who took over, his name's Simon Franklin. He worked on basically everything with James Horner. He worked on Avatar. He worked on Titanic.
Yeah.
He worked on Amazing Spider-Man. So he's just taking over for him, which is really cool.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Yeah, I really like. I'm gonna look up her name.
Is it Sorsha?
Yeah, because I forget her name.
Saoirse
I'll
Ronan.
find it.
It's Person Smith.
No.
First name dot last name.
Joanne Wally. I really like her. One of the things that I know her from most prominently is The Man Who Knew Too Little. She's the main female in that film, which is a Bill Murray comedy that I really, really like. She's also in The Singing Detective, which is another film I really like with Robert Downey Jr. She's very talented. I wish that this film had allowed her to flex a little bit more.
Luckily,
what she's capable of, but she's in the show.
Heck yeah!
So, I won't worry about that so much.
Yeah,
I had mistakenly placed Christian Slater and Val Kilmer. I switched them. So I thought when I heard Christian Slater was going to be in the new show, I was like, oh, they got Val Kilmer back for some reason. That's exciting. But no, it's Christian Slater in the new show.
Yeah,
he's
reportedly playing a friend of Mads. So like he's going to be a type of character like he is, but he's not replacing him, which I think is the best thing you can do.
Yeah, and I think that if the show continues and Val Kilmer continues to recover, he could possibly show up in a later season.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, watching the trailer was really cool because like you see all the people, the way they brought back, like the face that comes up the screen is Bab Morgan, and I was like, oh, I would never have caught that. That's cool.
I was shocked to see just how many people are returning. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice. Like 40
Kevin
years later,
Pollak?
and like, yeah, all these people are still around. Kevin Pollak, God, it was so interesting. Like, this has to have been one of his first things, and like, I know him so much from like drama and comedy stuff. That's like not this. So like to see like this is one of his first things being like a little brownie person. I'm like, that's so fun. Acting is weird sometimes.
I mean, he's back in the new one. That's really cool.
Yeah.
We don't know any of the kids' names, but I'd bet dollars to donuts. Aaron Kellerman is playing someone's kid.
Maybe.
Someone we know from this movie.
How many more people are left?
Well, Saoirse.
Well, no, that's she. Oh, okay. Well,
Saoirse's kid.
That's true. I don't think they're gonna bring in another kid because they're already gonna look for the princess's brother. I don't think they're gonna bring in another sibling.
I mean, anybody could be related to anybody, but I noticed it because Saoirse, you know, her hair's red, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Or,
or
reddish.
Her red hair is very big. Aaron Kellerman, known for that kind of big red hair.
Sure.
I would not be surprised if she was related.
I kind of agree with Ryan. That'd be weird if like we're featuring her daughter prominently saying that she's looking for her brother and not acknowledging that the other one is also a sibling in the trailers, but it could be, I guess.
Okay. Do we want to rate it?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll go first.
Okay.
You go for
I'm sorry, no one wants to say anything, so I'll give it a 7.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think it's good, but there are some problems with it, of course. But once again, it's definitely one of those movies that if you were on the boat growing up with it, it's definitely up in the higher echelon of films that you might have enjoyed a whole lot more. As an adult, it's a little hard to go to, but still very enjoyable. I just wish they trimmed the fat a little bit.
If I look at every other big 80s fantasy movie like Labyrinth or Dark Crystal, like Willow is the bottom of the list probably for me.
Yeah.
Which is not to say it's a bad movie, but like I think of the other big fantasy movies and I'm like, oh, it's not as good as those movies.
To be perfectly honest, if there was if I was given an option of Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, or Willow, I pick Labyrinth first every single time.
No, I'm 100% with you. The power of voodoo you do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it 7.5.
Okay.
75.
Yeah, I think that I'm very pleased to be revisiting it at a point where I know there's a television show with Warwick Davis coming back, because for the Warwick Davis movie, this felt like a little bit of a disservice to the character, seeing it as an adult. And I wish that there was something more present for his character here. I'm very excited for the show because I think it's going to give me a lot of things that I found lacking in this film. And I think that the film works very well for its family fantasy film from 1988. But there are definitely some blind spots there. I still think the performances are very good. The feels are the feels, and that's what really matters, I think, in a film like this one. So with all that, I would give it a 7.
I'm really excited for that show. I was before I watched the movie. I thought it looked really great. I like the idea of returning to franchises. I've always liked the idea of going to, what happens after Happily Ever After, that kind of trope that we're seeing a lot of in this decade, or the prior decade in this one. I'm happy with it because I think it's really cool that we're asking the question, okay, what happened after? What happened next? And I really like Warwick Davis, and I'm happy to see him get the show. That said, that's about the show, though. I really like this movie. I thought this was a lot of fun. I really like the cast. I really like Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer in this movie. I was very, very pleased. I've never seen this before. I was so on board. I really liked the production design, loved the music. Yeah, it's an 8.5 for me.
Hell yeah.
Shall we book club?
Book it, Dano.